My family's from Derry, my father's from Craig and my mother's from the Brandywell.
I'm from Ballymoney, but my ancestors were Scottish.
My family are from Punjab, which is in India.
My family's from Hong Kong.
Well, my dad is from Craigan in Derry and my mum is from Park in County Down.
They originated from Scotland and they were Presbyterians.
Well, my mother's from Southern Ireland and my father's from Northern Ireland.
The family name was brought over with the Normans.
My family is from America and Donegal.
Our family name Lyle is a French name, a derivative of the name Delisle.
My ancestors are from Holland.
So, we've got the descendants of Ulster English, who are Anglican in North Armagh, the descendants of Lowland Scots Presbyterians in Antrim and Down, and Gaelic Catholic Irish in the Glens of Antrim and in the Sperrins. That shows the cultures and settlements that still exist in Northern Ireland to this day. Now, this programme is all about land in Northern Ireland. Who had it, who lost it, how they lost it, who got it, and who's got it now. The flight of the Earls was a godsend for James I of England. With the Gaelic Irish rulers gone, he could now get rid of many of the Catholic landowners. James was still afraid that the Catholic Irish would ally with Spain and use Ireland as a base to attack England. So he decided to change the rulers. He would import new landowners. They would be loyal to the Crown and to the Anglican Church. James used land to reward those who had been good to him. He was very tight with cash, but he was very good with patronage. That meant he did a lot of favours for his pals.
James I, born June 19th, 1566, star sign Gemini. He was James VI of Scotland and became James I of England in 1603 with the union of the crowns. A highly intelligent man, but a bit mad. His mother was the Catholic Mary Queen of Scots, but he was brought up a Protestant. He believed in the divine right of kings. He was a passionate anti-smoker. He was very short and had bow legs and had to be strapped onto his horse when hunting. He believed in witches. Commissioned the first version of the Bible in English, the King James Version. An assassination attempt against him was foiled. It was the gunpowder plot masterminded by the infamous Guy Fawkes.
Now, the Scots had been crossing the narrow straits for hundreds of years, and they're still coming. In fact, James had given land in County Down to two of his secret agents, Hugh Hamilton and Hugh Montgomery, and they had employed a lot of Lowland Scots Protestants to work on their estates, and this paved the way for the plantation. But a plantation is not about planting trees or vegetables, it's about planting people.
Good morning. You're welcome to my home. My name is Mistress Elizabeth, and we came over as planters from Scotland about 5 years ago. My husband got a grant of 2,000 acres of land, and when he got his grant of land, he was told he would have to build a good, strong house. And this is what we've built. This is my kitchen, where I do all my work. I do my cooking here at the fire, and I have an oven. This pot on the fire is an oven for baking bread, and as well as doing the cooking, I have to spin my wool to make clothes for the family. Now, when the place gets a bit dirty, I use the besom, and that's just made from heather and twigs. They're tied together, and that's what I use to sweep up after us all. Right, now, this is the main living room of the house. It's where we have our meals. It's also where my husband does the entertaining if we have any visitors. And it's a fine big room. This is some of the pottery that we brought over with us. And you can see it's very nicely decorated. These two muskets were very important for protecting us. They're used through shooting out through the little windows in the turret that you saw here, or through the gun loops on the long walk around the walls at the front of the ball.
There were blacksmiths, masons and carpenters, and they soon made shelters and cottages for themselves because there was plenty of materials to work with. Turf, branches from birch and ash trees, and rushes for thatch. Now everybody minded their trade, and the plough and the spade, and the building and setting of fruit trees and orchards and gardens. The old women spun and the young girls plied their nimble fingers, and everybody was innocently busy.
Sounds like paradise, but then whose paradise? There had been plantations in Ireland before the plantation of Ulster. They'd all been dreamt up in London, and they were an easy way for the English crown and a cheap way to control Ireland. But let's see just how successful they were. Laois and Offaly had been planted to protect the Pale. People from inside the Pale were given land to rent. But the offer of land didn't entice many people to leave the safety of the Pale, and the project failed. When the Old English family in Munster, the Desmonds, rebelled, the English defeated them and confiscated their lands. Queen Elizabeth I began the Munster Plantation.
Sure, it is a beautiful, sweet country as any under heaven, adorned with goodly woods fit for building houses and ships, full of good ports and havens. Beside, the soil itself is most fertile, fit to yield all kinds of fruit. And lastly, the heaven most mild temperate.
And to speak the truth, the Munster undertakers were in great part the cause of their own fatal miseries. For whereas they ought to have built castles and brought over colonies of English and admitted no Irish tenants but only English, these and like agreements were in no part performed by them. The best quality never came, only those who made profit from the land. Others brought no English but their own families, and all entertained Irish tenants and their families, who were now the first to betray them.
The chief architect of the plantation of Ulster was Sir Arthur Chichester, or as he might be known in Belfast, Sir Arthur Chichester.
Sir Arthur Chichester, born Devonshire, England. He was very bright and went to Oxford University. He joined the army and fought in Spain. He sailed with his pal Sir Francis Drake on his last voyage to the West Indies. The first man to sail solo around the world, Sir Francis Chichester, was a direct descendant. He was Lord Deputy of Ireland, 1604 to 1616. He got lots of land and founded the modern town of Belfast. He became a wealthy man, but wealth couldn't buy him happiness. His wife was Lady Lettice Perrott, crazy name, crazy gal. She had a baby boy who died soon after birth. Ambition to become a billionaire.
Now, the Ulster plantation was well organised, and the main task of settlement was in the hands of undertakers. No, not that kind of undertaker. There were dozens of them, English and Scots settlers, who undertook certain tasks. One, to clear the land of native Irish, to find English and Scots tenants, and to build fortified bonds, enclosures. Bowen is the old Gaelic word for cattle fort, and this one, Dalway's barn, outside Carrickfergus, is still a cattle fort. I don't like the look of most of them, to tell you the truth. They used to be built of stone, a bit like the old timber stockades that you would have seen in the colonies in America, places like Virginia. You'll have seen them in the Wild West. Land was also given to Protestants in Ireland who had fought in the army, the servitors. They were allowed to keep Irish tenants. A small amount of land was given to the loyal Irish. They had to pay double the rent and had to use English farming methods. The planters clustered in the best land and avoided the dangerous badlands. The native Irish were left the less fertile land in the hilly areas.
They were expected to run their estates along the same lines as the English and Scots planters, but they found it very difficult to adapt to the English methods of estate management. whereas under the new system, they were expected to collect money from their tenants and to pay their bills in that way. Many of them found it extremely difficult to do that.
Good Connacht. Kate, these are for you.
Thank you, Connor.
That's not going to pay your debts off. You still owe me for that car, and I want some monies for it. There'll be no more bartering in this house.
Well, how much of this money business do you want?
Well, the car must be worth at least some. And not just the brown ones. I want some of the good ones.
Well, you may as well take what you want. It's all the same to me. They look like buttons to me. I may even take the buttons off my shirt. I'll never understand this English money malarkey. It'll never catch on. Besides, whatever you take from me, you have to give to the English as taxes. Was it easier when we dealt in rabbits?
Couldn't get so many rabbits into your pocket, though, could you?
The London Guilds, companies of London merchants, had already been involved in the plantation of Virginia. Then James I gave them County Coleraine, and the new plantation created the new county of County Londonderry, and the city of Derry became known as the City of Londonderry, or London's Derry. Mind you, there wasn't much of it left when they got their hands in it, because it had just been burned to the ground by the rather flamboyant Sir Cahir O'Doherty.
Sir Cahir O'Doherty, born 1587, handsome, well-dressed and youthful. He was heir to the lordship of Inishowen, changed sides during the O'Neill Rebellion. He was proclaimed the Queen's O'Doherty and knighted for his bravery. Fell out with the governor of Derry who punched him in the face, and he fell out with the English. O'Doherty revolted and burnt Derry to the ground. Hobbies, Italian fashion. Most prized possession, an Italian Renaissance sword. Ambition, to rule Inishowen. Unfortunately, he lost his head.
What was interesting about the city was that it was a new piece of town planning. It was the best town planning of its day, as it were. So if you like, a classical, perfectly geometrical shaped town was built and then walled about with huge defensive fortifications. And of course, they were built for very specific defensive purposes, because the people who lived inside the walls were the colonists, were the planters. And amongst the people that were brought here at the time were young apprentice boys, orphans from some of the orphanages in London. And the people who would live outside the walls, who might attack them, were the local native Gaelic population.
Of course, the problem with settling any piece of land is that someone will have been there before you. This has happened all over the world. South Africa, the Middle East, Bosnia. People have been shunted around because of their religion, their politics, their nationality. And of course, one man's settler is another man's invader. Advertising the land in Ulster was easy. England was overpopulated and Ulster land was cheap and included valuable woodland.
Art thou a tradesman, a smith, a weaver? Go to Ireland. Thou shalt be higher in estimation and quickly enriched. Art thou a farmer, whose worth is not past 10 or 20 pounds? Go thither. Thou shalt whistle sweetly and feed thy whole family, be they 6 for 6pence a day. Art thou a gentleman that takes pleasure in the hunt? The fox and the wolf and the woodkern await thy coming, and the comely stag will furnish thy feasts with a full dish. There thou shalt have elbow room. Art thou a minister of God's word? Make speed. Thou shalt there see the poor, untaught, ignorant people worship stones and sticks. Thou, by carrying millions to heaven, may be made an archangel.
Thousands of families came from England and Scotland. Not all of them what you might call desirables.
From Scotland came many, and from England not a few, yet all generally the scum of both nations, who, from debt or law breaking, and fleeing from justice or seeking shelter, came hither. Most of these people cared little for any church, with fighting, murder, and adultery on their mind.
To escape the clutches of the law, a lot of these characters from the borders of Scotland headed to the more remote areas of Fermanagh. Their surnames and descendants are still there today. Armstrongs, Elliots, Beatties, Johnstons. They were like characters from the Wild West. By 1622, about 13,000 English and Scottish planters had come to Ulster, but the Irish were still in the majority. Now, the new landlords didn't mind having the native Irish on their lands. After all, they needed labourers and they could charge them twice the rent. All the same, they still didn't trust them. The plantations ended up mirroring the old Gaelic boundaries. So the Irish who used to own the land were now tenants with foreign masters as landlords. And their foreign landlords had a different religion, Protestant.
Thus you get developing in the Ulster plantation not simply a kind of regional divide, a Catholic area, a Protestant area, but oh no, something far more dangerous, where the conflict is far more sharp, a divide from townland to townland, from parish to parish, where people can look across the fields and say they used to be ours, now they're theirs. And that's something that still lives with us.
There were some native Irish who took to the woods and mountains and harassed the colonists with their guerrilla raids and stole their cattle. They were known as the wood cairn. And on a cold, dark night with the wind whistling through the trees, just imagine the terror they drove into the hearts of the settlers.
If the wood cairn didn't get him, the wolves will.
Wood cairn? Be they demons?
Be they demons? How long have you been in Ireland, Carpenter?
4 weeks. 4 weeks and 3 days since I took ship from Chester to the Newries.
A month in Ireland and you've never heard of the wood cairn?
The forests are full of them. Irish outlaws.
And they're all papists to a man.
And they hate nothing more than an Englishman.
And a Protestant.
Jeez, you mercy, I would I was back in Norfolk.
There is nothing but trouble in these parts. Men cannot go near the woods without being in danger. The Irish went into an Englishman's house. They severely wounded the man of the house and took between £7 and £8 and any of the rest of the goods which were worth carrying away.
To add to the planters' fears, there were rumours of Catholic Irish conspiracies against them. And on top of that, there was the constant rumour that one day Hugh O'Neill would return at the head of a Spanish army to rescue his people. There have been many conflicts in Irish history, and at the end of the day, very much of it seems to have been about the land. Having the land, losing the land, winning the land. All you have to do is look around Northern Ireland today and see just how important territory still is.